I opened up a small business online selling clothes. I bought too much things and then I couldn't sell them. Everything that Capital One I owed them was from that failed small business attempt that I should have probably never started. Capital One sued me for $7,000 something dollars, which was way over what I owed them. I was paying the minimum, and the minimum then was like $213. $190 of that was going only towards interest. And I felt like it was disrespectful and it was just too much. So I said, you know what? To hell with it. Hello?
Hi, Diane.
Yes, this is her.
Hi, Diane. It's John Williams from YouTube and GreatCreditFast. How are you?
Oh, hi, John. How are you?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Nice to speak with you.
All right, great. It's finally amazing to actually hear you. I thought you were going to be calling me later, actually.
Oh, no. It was between 3:30 and 4:15.
No, this is perfect.
Perfect. Cool. So, so tell me a little bit about your situation.
So my credit is not the greatest, right? Well, obviously that's why I'm working with you guys. I had that's like prior to a few months. I had to stop paying some of my cards. Prior to a few months prior to, I had to stop paying my some of my cards because I had to leave my job and started as a full-time student. So I had to do internship for a social work program, and the internship is unpaid. So I had to do basically 3 years of internship. And the money that I did have, I had to use for my classes and my books and transportation in New York, which is expensive. And so I've been trying to fix my credit, but it's been hard. I was buying a few of the courses online, sending the letters, the templates, which one of your guys, I think it was Jordan, told me that was like a good idea. And it seems as though I was able to delete one or two things, but super minor things. I think one of them was like $500 and the other one was like 200, but nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So Capital One sued me for $7,000 something dollars, which was way over what I owed them. But we kind of settled for like $4,500 if I'm not mistaken. And I don't think it's coming up in my record like it's been settled. But I'm afraid that later on it will, because then after I settled, I started digging in, and it said even though you settle, something stays in your credit for 7 years. I was telling Jordan that the reason I really want to get my credit fixed, other than the fact that I couldn't get a student loan from the rest of the money I needed, and I had to use the rest of my savings, and I'm practically broke because of it. Also, I want to get a car because in a few months, I want to get a job using my license as a social worker.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to move around, and the insurance companies are charging me so much for insurance. The car, the APR is insane. And in 2 or 3 years, I would like to even possibly get a house.
Cool. So I'm going to first start with the Capital One, and thank you for sharing all that information. So Capital One, whenever you negotiate with a debt collector, let's say it was a $7,500 balance, they most likely sold that debt. In most cases, they do. I'm not sure that specific situation. So if they sold the debt, they would sell that debt for a far smaller sum than $7,500, probably somewhere closer to $1,000. And so that person would then be incentivized to sue you. That entity would be incentivized to sue you, and them saying, okay, look, we'll take your $4,500 or $5,000 because they'll make 500% or 400% over the cost of the debt in which they just purchased.
Right.
But the problem becomes they don't communicate clearly that, yes, we will not sue you, but this will still remain on your credit report. And so what they end up doing is they end up updating the balance from $7,500 as being owed to zero once you pay it off. However, you're still left with a charge off on your credit report, which greatly damages your score. So in the future, if you ever do that again, what you want to do is you want to demand to pay for delete, saying, look, I'll pay you the $4,500 or I'll pay you the amount, subject to you deleting this from my credit report, and you need that in writing.
She said that she would give it to me after I finished the payment.
Yeah.
I asked for a pay for delete.
You have to ask in writing that as these payments are being made, at the end result, you will have this deleted entirely from my credit report's existence across the 3 bureaus.
Mm.
If they tell you things on the phone, it doesn't mean anything, because you ever call into one of the big companies and you'll speak to somebody, then you speak to somebody else a day later and they're telling you different things. Yeah. So you just want to make sure that you have that in writing. The second thing is, if you're thinking about buying a car, just a couple words of advice on that. What I would definitely stay away from them is any of the cars that are on the upper end. So like the nice BMWs or anything like that, even if they have an intro APR or anything like that, they're more expensive to insure. They're more expensive to service and manage, and the cost can just skyrocket. Like if you were to get something more like a Honda Civic or a Toyota Camry,
I was thinking of a Honda. I think it's a CRV.
yeah, my wife's mom has one of those and she loves it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they're cheap to insure. They're cheap to fill the gas tank. Cheap to maintain. So yeah, right now, are you saving money? Are you accumulating credit card debt?
No, I'm not accumulating any credit card debt.
Awesome.
Luckily, do have a credit card with Bank of America for $500, and I've had it for some time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to mess up with them, and because my bank was Bank of America, and I kind of said, if I have money with them, that kind of makes no sense. So that's the only credit card I have. Jordan did advise that I would get like a secure credit card, which I will do today for like the $300 that I have to deposit.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was just waiting for your call to make sure that, that you guys were on board with the fact that I was going to do that today.
Yeah. So a lot of secured credit cards will take you without you even putting in your social. So it's not even like an inquiry on your credit report. And it just builds a relationship with that lender. And then some of them, after 6 months or 7 months, will start extending you a line of credit. So they'll say, look, you've been depositing $300, you'll spend the $300 and you pay it back immediately, or you refurnish the account and you have a good payment history, and we'll advance you $400 or $300, and then they'll start advancing you and just keep being responsible and paying off the full balance. You'll start to build this on your report.
And it's not that I wasn't responsible with my credit. Like my credit, I'm the daughter of a teen mom, right? Well, she's not a teen anymore, right? But so I'm like the only one in my home that decided that credit was like necessary, that wanted to get a house in the future, a car, go to college. And I'm like the first of many things in my family. So obviously to me, credit was like brand new. When I had a really good credit score, I had a pretty high credit amount, but then it felt like I opened up a small business online selling clothes, and I kind of derailed because I bought too much things and then I couldn't sell them. So everything that basically Capital One I owed them was from that failed small business attempt that I should have probably never started. But I can't cry over spilled milk. It seemed as though I was paying the minimum, and the minimum then was like $213. Mm-hmm. And the minimum was like $190 of that was going only towards interest. And I felt like it was disrespectful and it was just too much. And I said to myself, I can't keep starving just to pay a credit card when they don't even want to, work with me on the APR and go down and stuff. So I said, you know what, to hell with it. There's also a few things on my credit that just didn't make sense. Like that Capital One that I'm speaking to you about.
Yeah.
That Capital One, it actually arrived to me after I got an inquiry about it. And then I said, wait, there's a Capital One that's open. Hey, send it to me. Why not? But it wasn't me that opened it. And I basically, I decided to take matters into my own hands in the beginning because I was like, wait, but somebody opened up a credit card on my name. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, send it over. Why not? And I started using it. But it was even with a different address and everything. It was just after that I opened up Credit Karma and I realized there's something there that I'm like, huh. So I tried explaining that to them, like, wait, you guys opened this even without my consent. I don't know. It's just that I was just lucky to find out soon.
Yeah.
But the amount that was owed was mine, because after I found out, obviously they sent me the card and I started using it. But I was thinking, I'm like, wait, but there's other things on my credit that are not like mine. Like there's another thing called there's like a lease, Jordan said, for a small car or something. I've never had a car.
Huh.
Yeah. And there's a few phone numbers in that's also not there, a few addresses that are not mine.
Yeah, it's interesting. 79 out of 100 Americans have inaccurate, wrong, or unfair information. So 79% of the population. It's such a big number because there's so much fraud and there's so many screw ups happening, whether it be from lenders or credit bureaus or all these different third parties. And it really holds back, millions of people from being able to, accomplish their goal. Like, for example, that Capital One, look, you starting a small business, that's awesome. Like, and with business, you take risk. Maybe that first one didn't work out, but the next one might. And then, that's just how it goes. And so, I've done so many things to where I'm like, oh, this is definitely going to work. and then, ended up being an extremely expensive lesson, and you learn a lot from it. And the next time you try it, it works 10x better than the first time you anticipated what the result would likely be. So it's just kind of like that tug of war game of business. So
Yeah.
you're definitely moving in the right direction. Regarding that charge off though with Capital One, what many people don't realize this is that when a debt is sold, a lot of the times they'll sell it to a debt collector that doesn't have the right contract, or they mess up, or they don't have the actual capacity to do what they're saying they're going to do. And so when you dispute it, depending on the circumstances of the situation, so you probably spoke to Marge or Casey or Erica.
From your end?
Yes.
No females, just males.
Okay, so you just spoke to Jordan. When did you speak to Jordan? A couple days ago?
Yes, a couple of days ago, and I think even today he called me to tell me you were calling.
Okay, so I'm gonna 1 second. Did he send you a notification or any type of invite to have a conversation with Marge, Casey, or Erica?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not gonna say no because I haven't checked my email, but as far as I'm concerned, no. But I will definitely check. But I don't think I've seen that today.
Okay. Do you have any availability later today or tomorrow? I want to have someone from the team go over your credit report with you in detail.
Yes. Let me see. Let me look at my schedule for tomorrow because I'm actually very interested. I really want to get my credit fixed by like the summer. Just give me 1 second. 1:30 all the way to like 4:30.
I'm going to have them call you tomorrow between that time zone or that time. I'm just sending them the message now, so that way it's all set.
Thank you. I'm laughing because I think I see your videos 3-4 times a week because my boyfriend, he sees your videos.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah, it's I am doing the dishes and stuff, and I'm like, hey, it's John here, and I'm like, oh my god, here we go with the whole rug pull. That's your word.
Yeah, because if you look at actually what's going on in the economy, they put 40% of all USD since this country was founded in 1776 out in circulation inside of 24 months with record low interest rates. And now they're pulling the money out and basically tripling interest rates, taking interest rates on a mortgage from 2.5%, 3% to 7.5%. It's like they're pulling the rug on everybody right now.
Yeah. I mean, I see your videos. I try to understand. Half the time I'm just looking at him and I'm like, listen, can you explain this to me? But he likes you. I'm actually going to have him say hello to you.
Oh, cool.
John, how you doing?
Hey, good, man. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
What's your first name?
Jason.
Jason, man. Nice to talk with you.
Likewise. Yeah, we were expecting cuts today, but Jerome Powell, he decided to deceive all of us.
Yep. And I've been saying that, and people are like, oh, you're a doomer. You're a crash bro, because I'm saying that they're not going to cut rates. They said that in January 2023, that rate cuts are coming. I had a lot of friends back then that were betting me, oh, we're going to see a rate cut in January 2023. I'm like, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's not going to happen. And now we're February basically, and I don't think we're going to see a rate cut in March. I think it's going to be, I'd be shocked if we see one for quite some time.
I actually heard that due to the fact that even if the interest rates do come down, that pretty much like the mortgage rates are going to go up.
Yeah, I don't see mortgage rates going down. But you have to think about it. Like the way that I look at it, if you look at like the housing market is in a very, very interesting place. So if you were to buy a home right now, the average home in America is about $412,000, right? So if you were to put 11% down, which is the national average, the monthly payment would be $3,500 a month. That is such a big number, considering the fact that you can rent for 60% less every single month and not have to deal with the maintenance and the rising cost of insurance. And then we have a 50-year high in apartment construction coming right now. And so all of these things are headwinds for a lot of landlords that have to refinance their mortgages that they secured a few years ago at 2 or 3% and now 7%. And they're not going to be able to get, a lot of them won't be able to get these loans. The CEO of Starwood Capital said he's expecting $1.2 trillion in defaults.
Yep.
So it's like you're going to see a situation where landlords are going to be desperate to fill those units, and they're going to drop rents, and it's just going to make the desirability of buying a home, greatly reduced. But you think about it from the flip side of it, those that have the cash, that credit, there's going to be a lot less people that are able to go out there and buy homes. And so those people are going to be able to go out there and actually invest and own things, which is going to be the real goal, being able to go out there and acquire real assets, because they're likely going to bring a lot of pain to the dollar over the next decade.
That's right. Because, for example, when I purchased my home, I believe it was end of 2019, and I paid $25,000 over, and everybody's telling me, dude, you got a crazy deal. Like, I'm paying $100,000 over, $120,000 over, and I still can't get the property. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have timed it better, because 2019 and then the following year and a half, everything basically like doubled.
Right.
And
then I just been looking like to get my second home, and it's been almost near impossible.
Yeah, if I were you, I would just stack cash and build out a game plan, because in an environment where people are, let's just say, less optimistic about the future of the U.S. economy, is in an environment where there's going to be a lot more sellers that are trying to find a buyer. Like they're trying to escape or leave that deal. And so if you're sitting there with cash, you have a pre-approval letter from a lender, and you're able to go out there and close, you're in the power position. It's unlike what we've seen in 2020 and 2022, where the home seller was driving basically all the terms of the deal.
Right. I actually heard sellers are like a little motivated in negotiating terms, like due to the fact that pretty much it doesn't even make sense, like as far as the interest rates and the numbers. Like, so I heard some sellers might be motivated to negotiate this time around. Who knows?
1,000%. I own a property in Florida, and because of the insurance problem. So in Fort Myers there was that problem, and then Hurricane Lee and all like Fort Lauderdale flood and all these different things. Insurance is skyrocketed in Florida. And so we got a knock on the door basically from an insurance company, like, okay, all of you guys that basically have to write a check for $20,000 or pay an extra $380 a month for the next 5 years. Like that was the ultimatum. And you start to think about it, we ended up paying the money up front because they didn't want the HOA to go up. Basically you add that 300 and something to the HOA, and I didn't want to do that. So we ended up paying it up front. But when you look at this is coming to millions of doors around the country. It's not just in Florida. This is a problem in Texas, a problem in California, a problem in a lot of different areas where HOAs and insurance just skyrocketing. And so home sellers, how do they handle that?
It hit us here in the northeastern region as well. Like, I believe it was like a 10 to 15% increase. Like, I saw my mortgage. I'm like, why did my mortgage go up? And then I checked, and I received a letter from the insurance company, and they raised my insurance rate by 10 to 15%.
Crazy, right? Like, and I think it's probably gonna put a lot of people that had no intention of selling over the last couple of years into a mental mind frame of, can I continue to afford the rising cost of food, energy, and property insurance and taxes? And so that's why I'm saying, if you're sitting in a really good position cash-wise, or you have a really good business or a really good job, you're going to be ahead of the pack when times get a little bit tougher here, I think, in 2024. I think we're probably going to walk into a really, really big opportunity next 24 months.
Hopefully.
Well, it was really nice speaking with you, and I look forward to helping your girlfriend square away her credit, and yeah, all of us taking advantage of this big opportunity coming.
Hopefully she could catch up, Hopefully she could get to the 800s, but I believe in you guys. I have faith.
Well, we look forward to it.
John.
You got it. My team will call you tomorrow at that time, and they'll be able to, one second, they actually just sent me a message. They'll be giving you a call tomorrow at inside of that time, between 1:30 and 4:30. You're Eastern Standard, right?
Yes.
Great. They'll be giving you a call tomorrow, and they'll be able to go through your entire credit report.
All right, sounds phenomenal. I'll be waiting on that. Thank you so much.
You got it. Nice speaking with you.